today's Democrats, they're not our parents' or grandparents' Democrat Party. They're not liberals who love America.
Absolutely.
They are leftists. They are Marxists. They do not believe in free speech. They believe in censorship, and they do it under the guise of combating misinformation or disinformation, inconvenient
or to reduce harm or
yes,
something like that.
Inconvenient facts that end up being true. They don't believe in equality. They believe in equity, and they don't believe in equal justice and due process. They believe in a politicized and weaponized justice system.
Yep, absolutely.
If we do not stop them this time for their real crimes, I 100% agree with you, Tim. They're going to come back and crush us after January 20th, 2029.
Absolutely. Like that's an argument that we make here regularly. The left that is currently in control of the narrative on the left side, on the Democrat side, they're not liberals, as much as people call them liberals, and it's fine to use that colloquially, but they're not actually liberal. They're progressives. They tend to be Marxist. They tend to believe in a lot of Marxist theory, even. And it's gotten so bad that there are even people that ostensibly would say they're on the right, but they're still making the argument that, oh, the CEO that got killed, it was okay because he was rich and the guy that killed him, was doing something for the poor. And it's like, that is absolutely unconscionable in a liberal society.
Yeah.
In a liberal society, that is not how it works at all. And the fact that there are more and more people on the left, and there are people that would say that they're on the right. I would make an argument that they're not actually on the right if they believe that, but they would say that they're not leftists, and they would say, but it's okay because of this particular power dynamic. That is a terrible, terrible development for America.
Do you think that after 4 years of prosecuting all of these people, do you think that the left, if they get back into power, would not engage in prosecutions?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you prosecute these people or not, because they will. Exactly.
They will or not. So is this just what our country is now? Every 4 years you prosecute the previous administration?
I don't think so. I think what we can do is we can prosecute the people that have committed crimes with this administration. Mm-hmm. Hopefully the Democrats will have come to their senses, because something that we talk about here regularly.
Well, the Democrats are in their own civil war. I mean, they have a decision to make.
Exactly, and I'm hopeful that the Democrats, the actual Democrats, the liberals of the Democrats will win, because your average American is not a progressive. They're not the crazy leftists.
No, I think we just learned that.
Yeah, and the thing is, they just have been doing what is easy, and they have been hiding from the crazy progressives that will cancel them and say they'll call your job and essentially make your life hell if you don't shut up and just listen. Those people, the people that are progressives, need to be isolated, and they need to be removed from positions of power and positions of authority. And your normal Democrats, your normal Joe Manchins, right? Those people they care about working people, that have a desire to see, maybe they're pro-union, but they want to see things that are good for the working people. The workers, they want to see that kind of stuff. Those people need to be ascendant in the Democrat Party, and they need to be the ones in power, and they need to be the people that control essentially the money backers of the DNC. Mm-hmm. If they can get control of the party, that will save the Democrat Party, and that honestly will save America, because then we can go back to arguing over which corporate tax rate is right, not whether or not you should kill CEOs. Because that's the argument we're having now all too frequently with the far left. Is it acceptable to kill people because they're rich? We're talking about the terror in France.
TERFs are Nazis, conservatives are Nazis.
But the thing is, we're talking about the far left. We're talking about the exact same kind of thing that caused the terror in the French Revolution.
Sure, and now they've brought their red smoke bombs to the U.S. I mean, we've seen them now, red smoke bombs in Montreal and in Greenwich Village. So I do think that's leaning, and I'm just curious, what are we looking at? We're coming up on 250 years as a nation. What are we looking at for the next 100 years of our country? What are our children growing into? What are they inheriting?
There's a couple things that need to be done. First of all, we need to make sure we need to do our best to get as many of the leftists out of schools. So there needs to be massive change at the Department of Education and
abolish the schools.
Yeah,
I'm talking about the schools of higher education.
I don't know that you can
privatize them.
fix a lot of these.
Mm-hmm.
schools. You know, I mean, I think that one thing that would help fix a lot of these schools, one thing that would really do a lot is if the government is no longer providing the student loans for your, you know, gender studies, what we used to call basket weaving, things like this, right?
Folklore and mythology.
Right. Well, that's actually worthwhile is the thing. Folklore and mythology are worthwhile classes. Don't major in it, but it's worth.
Yeah.
It's good to know what our ancestors thought of the world and what they, how they accumulated knowledge. I think that's important. But make them pay for all that stuff with their endowments.
I can solve a lot of the problems this country is facing very, very easily. What we need is whoever's going to be put in charge of the Department of Education to mandate that all public schools in the United States be converted into mini golf courses where people can pay a nominal fee to enjoy a game of mini golf, and the kids will not go to them anymore. And as much as people are going to respond with, but then where do the kids go to learn? I don't know or care. They will still be better off. That's how bad it is.
I mean, that there's a lot of truth to that children are no longer taught. They're not taught things nowadays. And George Bush is responsible for a significant amount of this because of No Child Left Behind. The idea of No Child Left Behind just
that
made
was terrible.
Just
and then that was compounded with Common Core.
Yeah, that just made teachers give kids that were failing passing grades. That's all it did. It was a terrible idea. It was a terrible precedent set. But you need to get the schools of education. So the schools where teachers go to learn, you need to get the leftist indoctrination out of there. So you need to get rid of Paulo Freire and all of his.
Those are basically just all the grad schools.
I mean, yeah,
get rid of all
essentially.
the grad schools. Yeah.
But yes, and these things.
That's Teachers College. It's Hunter.
Yes.
It's all of the schools where all of the teachers go.
Yes, 100%. And that's
so basically we end up
because
with
all of the
southern
teachers
schools.
are ideologically
We get rid of
possessed.
the northern schools and the California schools, and we keep the southern schools, and then we're okay.
I mean, I don't know if that's exactly how it breaks down, but the thing is, if you've got people in the schools of education being indoctrinated with Paulo Freire's garbage,
Sure.
You know, the pedagogy of the oppressed, I think is the book that he uses.
There's
all the time.
There's theater of the oppressed.
Yeah.
There's all of this.
The whole thing is about oppression, and you're not teaching kids things like how to read, how to write, how to properly construct sentences, how to do math, how to do basic things that you need to actually live. They're taught all kinds of just leftist mumbo jumbo, and the teachers are taught that. So when they get into the schools and they're teaching kids, they're teaching them absolutely insane shit.
I got to be honest, you know, like my view on a lot of this is it's either like it's going to get really bad in 20 years because these kids are going to grow up and their brains are going to be fried. They're not going to know basic survival skills. They will make demands of the government will collapse. People who are voting for other people, like you're going to have a large population. These younger people are going to be in their 20s and 30s, and they're going to say, I hereby vote that all capable people of merit must do work for me. That's basically what they're saying, because they're going to be like, I don't know how to survive this, so we should tax everybody. Then the people who actually do work and make things get taxed. Everybody knows what happens then. The people who, there's this funny story that went viral where it was like a teacher did a communism lesson in the classroom and said, when the next test we take, we're going to average out all the grades and everyone will get the same grade. And then what happened was everybody ended up getting like a B minus. And so the kids who didn't study were like, hey, I didn't even study and I got a B. The kids who just bombed the test, like, I got a B. But the kids who worked really hard and got perfect scores got Bs and got mad.
Yeah, they would be.
So the next time they did the test, it dropped down to a C. Because the kids who worked really, really hard were like, well, what's the point? I'm going to break my back and I'm not going to get that much. I better do what they're doing. They're chilling. So why study? And then within like 3 or 4 cycles, they were all failing. And because nobody felt like they had to take responsibility for it, because the harder you worked, you were being pulled back by everybody else. That's what's going to happen with the next generation. And so what I see is, okay, maybe in 20, 30 years, it all falls apart and collapses. But I'm not really worried because I got no problem living in a van down by the river. Now, these urban hippie liberal, city urban liberal types, we call them, they're going to be freaking out, bashing their faces on the table. Their water will shut off. They're not going to not know what they can or cannot eat. So, you know, I always talk about how over at the Cast Castle, our other studio, there's fruit everywhere. We've got wineberries, blackberries, mulberries galore. Mulberries like crazy. And pawpaw fruit, and there's wild frost grapes. Heavens, there's so much food. But there's also these little red berries and these little blackberries, and they will kill you. if you eat them.
You got to be careful with that.
And see, we
Like in the Hunger Games.
we know that because living out there, we checked and we checked to make sure, and we used apps and we searched on the internet, and then we confirmed. And these urban liberal types don't even know that you can eat a berry off a plant. They've never gathered before. I mean, some have, of course. They'll go up north and they'll go mapling or whatever they might do, but they're not going to have any idea. It's remarkable to me when, and I'm not going to pretend to be like some survivalist expert when I tell people, yeah, black walnut trees you can tap and you can drink the sap. And they're like, wow, I didn't know that. Well, it's not a common thing, but black walnut syrup you can make. And maple trees, yeah, you can just drink the water right out of the tree. It's lightly sweet or whatever. People don't know anything about how to get food anywhere. And I hear it all the time from people who come from the cities being like, can I eat that? And I'm like, yes, it's food. Like, what do you think you're eating at the grocery store? Do you think there's like a machine that makes the strawberry? They grow it on the ground and they throw it in a bucket and then they give it to you. That's why you got to wash it off. There's pesticides or whatever.
I had a friend, I was telling him I was eating the eggs that your chickens made. And he was like, I prefer the ones from the market. I was like, why? These ones are way better. They're
Fresher
better
than chickens'
eggs.
butt.
Yeah.
So my point is, these kids in these schools are going to grow up totally clueless. And then once they can vote, they're going to say, I hereby vote to take Phil's stuff because, Phil's oppressing me by being rich. And meanwhile, Phil is just going to be some dude living on like 5 acres who has his own garden. And he's going to be like, look, I planted this food so I could eat it. And like, yeah, well, you have more than I do, so you're oppressing me, so give me your food.
Well, this is communism. I mean, this is what happened in Soviet Russia.
And that's why I'm saying the worst case scenario is when everything collapses and these people are eating each other in the streets, I'm not going to be anywhere near them. And I think I can take care of myself. I will not enjoy it. But, we're trying to resist this from happening, resist this movement. And we want to make changes so that we can live in comfort. But look at the CEO assassin. This guy was so dumb. He murdered someone because he doesn't understand how the system works. These young people have dissociated or been dissociated from basic functions of economics to where they believe, like psychopaths like Bernie Sanders, that healthcare is a human right. But the best way to phrase it is anything that requires the human labor of someone else is not a human right. You can't force a doctor to treat you. They are going to try with guns. When it all falls apart, I think I'll be all right. Unhappy, but all right. Or we can stand up now, we can hope, and we can pressure, and we can campaign, and we can vote, and we can educate, and we can fix these systems this cycle while we have the chance, and then start to educate young people properly.
I mean, I was fairly black-pilled before the election of Donald Trump in the recent election. I really did think that the narrative that is spun by the left and by the mainstream media had gotten so deep inside people's heads that they were going to vote for Kamala Harris.
I thought so too. I was worried about it.
I really believed. And to be honest with you, if the Democrats hadn't blown it, if Joe Biden hadn't blown it with the border his entire time, that might have been true. But I
think if he hadn't dropped out, he would have had a much better chance than Kamala did.
I'm not so sure about that because I think a lot of people were pretty aware that he's dead. He was a walking dead man.
Oh man, we definitely got to talk about all the commutations and pardons. But if you want to hit that point before we jump to the next.
Yeah, the point that I'm making is to amplify Tim's point. We do have a chance now, and I'm very thankful because I thought that
I
was
hope
done.
you guys are right.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.